Chapter 6 of Half Hours with the Idiot. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Kathleen. Half Hours with the Idiot by John Kendrick Bangs. On Medical Conservation. "I see by the paper this morning," said the Idiot, as he put 3 lumps of sugar into his pocket, and absent-mindedly dropped his eyeglasses into his coffee, "that, thanks to the industry of our medical schools and colleges, the world is richer by 30,000 new doctors to-day than it was yesterday. How does the law of supply and demand work in cases of that kind, Dr. Squills?" "Badly, very badly indeed," said the doctor, with a gloomy shake of his head. "The profession is sadly overcrowded, and mighty few of us are making more than a bare living." "I was afraid that was the case," said the Idiot sympathetically. "I was talking with a prominent surgeon at the club the other night, and he was terribly upset over the situation. He intimated that we have been ruthlessly squandering our natural internal resources almost as riotously and as blindly as our lumbermen have been destroying the natural physical resources of the country. He assured me that he himself had reached a point in his career where there was hardly a vermiform appendix left in sight, and where 5 years ago he was chopping down not less than 4 of these a day for 6 days of the week at $1,000 per. It was now a lucky time for him when he got his pruning knife off the hook once a month. That vermiform appendix craze was all a fad anyhow," said the Bibliomaniac sourly, "like the tango, and bridge, and golf, and slumming, and all the rest of those things that society takes up, and then drops all of a sudden like a hot stick. It looked at one time as if nobody could hope to get into society who hadn't had his vermiform removed." "Well, social fad or not," said the Idiot, "whatever it was, there is no question about it that serious inroads have been made upon what we may call our vermiforests, and unless something is done to protect them, by George, in a few years we won't have any left except a few stuffed specimens down in the Smithsonian Institution. I asked my friend Dr. Cuttom why he didn't call for a vermiform conservation congress to see what can be done either to prevent this ruthless sacrifice of a product that if suitably safeguarded should supply ourselves and our children and our children's children to the uttermost posterity with ample appendicular resources for the maintenance in good style of a reasonable number of surgeons, or to recede scientifically where the unscientific destruction of these resources is uncontrollable." "How about that, doctor? Suppose you remove a man's vermiform appendix. Is there any system of medical or surgical fertilization and replanting that would cause 2 vermiforms to grow where only 1 grew before, so that sooner or later every human interior may become a sort of garden close, where one can go and pluck a handful of vermiform appendices every morning, like so many hardy perennials in full bloom?" "I'm afraid not," smiled the doctor. "Anybody but the Idiot would know that it couldn't be done," said the Bibliomaniac, "because if it could be done it would have been done long ago. When you find men successfully transplanting rabbits' tails on monkeys, and frogs' legs on canary birds, you can make up your mind that if it were within the range of human possibility, they would by this time have vermiform appendices sprouting lushly in geranium pots for insertion into the systems of persons desiring luxuries of that sort." "You mustn't sneer at the achievements of modern surgery, Mr. Bib," said the Idiot. "There is no telling how soon any one of us may need to avail himself of its benefits. Who knows? Maybe a surgeon will come along some day who will be able to implant a sense of humor in you to gladden all your days." "Preposterous!" snapped the Bibliomaniac. "Well, it does seem unlikely," said the Idiot, "but I know of a young doctor who without any previous experience planted a little heart in a frigid suffragette, and though I know the soil is not propitious, even you may sometime be blossoming luxuriantly within, with buds of cheer and sweet optimism. But however this may be, it is the unquestioned and sad fact that a once profitable industry for our surgically inclined brothers has slumped And they tell me that even those surgeons who have adopted modern commercial methods and give away a set of Rudyard Kipling's works and a year's subscription to the Commoner, with every vermiform removed, are making less than $1,000 a week out of that branch of their work." "Mercy!" cried the poet. "What couldn't I do if I had $1,000 a week?" "You could afford to write real poetry all the time, instead of only half the time, old man?" said the Idiot affectionately. "But don't you mind. We're all in the same boat. I'd be an infinitely bigger idiot myself if I had half as much money as that." "Impossible," said the Bibliomaniac, chuckling over his opportunity. "Green-eyed monster," smiled the Idiot. "But speaking of this overcrowding of the profession, it is a surprise to me, Doctor, that so many young men are taking up medicine these days, when competent observers everywhere tell us that the world is getting better all the time. If that is true, and the world really is getting better all the time, it is fair to assume that some day it will be entirely well. And then, let me ask you, what is to become of all the doctors? It will not be a good thing for society ever to reach a point where it has such an army of unemployed on its hands, and especially that kind of an army, made up as it will be of highly intelligent but desperately hungry men, face to face with starvation, and yet licensed by the possession of a medical diploma to draw, and have filled, prescriptions involving the whole range of the materia medica, from Iceland moss and squills up to prussic acid and cyanide of potassium. It makes me shudder to think of it," said Mr. Brief, the lawyer, with a grin at the doctor. "Shudder isn't the word," said the Idiot. "The bare idea makes my flesh creep like a Philadelphia trolley car. Coxey's army was bad enough, made up as it was of a poor, miserable lot of tramps and panhandlers, all so unused to labor as to be really job shy. But in their most riotous moods, the worst those poor chaps could do was to heave a few bricks or a dead cat through a millinery shop window, or perhaps bat a village magnate on the back of the head with a bed slat. There was nothing insidiously subtle about the warfare they waged upon society. But suppose that, laboring under a smarting sense of similar wrongs, there should come to be such a thing as old Dr. Pepson's army of unemployed physicians and surgeons, marching through the country, headed for the White House in order to make an impressive public demonstration of their grievances. What a peril to the body politic that would be! Not only could the surgeons waylay the village magnates and amputate their legs, and seize hostile editors and cut off the finger with which they run their typewriting machines, and point with alarm but the more insidious means of upsetting the public wheel by pouring chamomile into our wells, putting castor oil in our reservoirs, leaving cholera germs and typhoid cultures under our doormats, or transferring a pair of jackasses' legs to the hindquarters of an old family horse found grazing in the pasture, would transform a once smiling countryside into a scene of misery and desolation. "Poor, poor Dobbin," murmured the Bibliomaniac. "Indeed, Mr. Bib, it will be poor, poor Dobbin," said the Idiot. "I don't think that many people besides you and myself realize how desperately serious a menace it is that hangs over us, and I feel that one of the first acts of the administration, after it has succeeded in putting grape juice into the Constitution as our national tipple, and constructed a solid Portland cement wall across the Vice President's thorax to ensure that promised 4 years of silence, should be an effort to control this terrible situation." "You talk as if it could be done," said the doctor doubtfully. "Of course it can be done," said the Idiot. "Doctors being engaged in interstate commerce—" "Doctors? Interstate commerce?" cried Mr. Brief. "That's a new one on me, Mr. Idiot. Everybody is apparently in interstate commerce in your opinion. Seems to me it was only the other day that you spoke of clairvoyants being in it." "Sure," said the Idiot. "And it's the same way with the doctors. In 99 cases out of 100, where a man passes from this state into the future state, you'll find a doctor mixed up in it somewhere, even if it's only as a coroner. This being so, it would be perfectly proper to refer the matter to the Interstate Commerce Commission for a solution. Anyhow, something ought to be done to handle the situation while the menace is in its infancy. We need the ounce of prevention. Now, my suggestion would be that the law should step in and either place a limit to the number of doctors to be turned out annually, on a basis of so many doctors to so many hundreds of population. Say 3 doctors to every 100 people, just as in certain communities the excise law allows only 1 saloon for every 1,000 registered voters. Or else, since the state permits medical schools to operate under a charter, authorizing them to manufacture physicians and surgeons ad lib, and turn them loose on the public, the state should provide work for these doctors to do. To this end we might have, for instance, a Bureau of Disease Dissemination, subject perhaps to the jurisdiction of the Secretary of the Interior, under whose direction, acting in cooperation with the Department of Agriculture, every package of seeds sent out by a congressman to his constituents would have a sprinkling of germs of one kind or another mixed in with the seeds, thus spreading little epidemics of comparatively harmless disorders like the mumps, the measles, or the pip, around in various over-healthy communities where the doctors were in danger of going over the hill to the poorhouse. Surely, if we are justified in making special efforts to help the farmers, we ought not to hesitate to do the doctors a good turn once in a while. You think the public would stand for that, do you? Queried the bibliomaniac scornfully. Oh, the public is always inhospitable to new ideas at first, said the idiot, but after a while they get so attached to them that you have to start an entirely new political party to prove that they are reactionary. But, as the poet says, into all lives some mumps must fall, and the sooner we get 'em over with the better. If the public once wakes up to the fact that the measles and the mumps are as inevitable as a coal bill in winter or an ice bill in summer, it will cheerfully endorse a federal statute which enables us to have these things promptly and be done with 'em. It's like any other disagreeable thing in life. As old Colonel Macbeth used to say to that dear old suffragette wife of his, "If 'twere done when 'tis done, then 'twere well 'twere done quickly." It's like taking a cold bath in the morning. You don't mind it at all if you jump in a hurry, and then jump out again. But even if the public didn't take that sensible view of it, we have legislative methods by which the thing could be brought about without the public knowing anything about it. For instance, supposing somebody in Congress were to introduce an innocent little bill appropriating $500,000 for the erection of a residence for a United States ambassador to the Commonwealth of California, for the avowed object of keeping somebody in San Francisco to see that Governor Johnson didn't declare war on Japan without due notice to the Navy Department. What could be simpler than the insertion in the bill of a little joker providing that, from the date of the enactment of this statute, the Department of Agriculture is authorized and required to expend the sum of $20,000 annually on the dissemination, through congressional seed packages, of not less than 1 ounce per package of germs of assorted, infantile, and other comparatively harmless disorders, for the benefit of the medical profession. Taxidermists tell us that there are more ways than one to skin a cat, and the same is true of legislation. There's only one other way that I can see to bring the desired condition about, and that is to permit physicians to operate under the same system of ethics as that to be found in the plumbing business. If a plumber is allowed, as he is allowed in the present state of public morality, to repair a leak in such a fashion to-day that new business immediately and automatically develops, requiring his attention tomorrow, I see no reason why doctors should not be permitted to do the same thing. Called in to repair a mump, let him leave a measle behind. The measle cured, a few chicken pox left carelessly about, where they will do the most good, will ensure his speedy return, and so on. Every physician could in this way take care of himself, and by a skillful manipulation of the germs within his reach should have no difficulty not only in holding but in increasing his legitimate business as well. Ugh, shuddered Mrs. Pedagog, you almost make me afraid to let the doctor stay in this house a day longer." "Don't be afraid, madam," said the doctor amiably. "After all, I'm a doctor, you know, and not a plumber." "I'll guarantee his absolute harmlessness, Mrs. Pedagog," said the Idiot. "We're perfectly safe here. It is no temptation to a doctor to sow the germs of disorder among people like ourselves who have reduced getting free medical advice to a system." "Well," said Mr. Brief, the lawyer, "your plan is all right for the doctors, but why the dickens don't somebody suggest something for us lawyers once in a while? There were 70,000 new lawyers turned out yesterday, and you haven't even peeped." "No," said the Idiot, "it isn't necessary. You lawyers are well provided for. With one national Congress and 48 separate state legislatures working 24 hours a day, turning out 57 new varieties of law every 15 minutes, all so phrased that no human mind can translate them into simple English, there's enough trouble constantly on hand to keep 20 million lawyers busy for 30 million years, telling us not what we can't do, but what few things there are left under the canopy that a man of religious inclinations can do without danger of arrest. End of On Medical Conservation.